r/Niceguy stories by Redmond Dts. Romantically pursued by a nice guy for over 10 years. One day, a long time ago, I met John. I was in high school at the time and had been pretty socially isolated. I had endured a lot of bullying and was desperate for connections as a result. Every new person who my small friend group introduced me to, I tried my best to build a friendship with. My friends were more well off than me, they were in nuclear families and their parents had good incomes. Meanwhile I lived in the bad part of the suburb and had to go through a lot more challenges. John was also from the bad area, so I saw a kind red spirit. Unfortunately this was my downfall. Upon meeting John, he was immediately creepy. I sadly was so desperate for connections I brushed it off. I didn't find it too weird. A little weird definitely, but not a friendship killer. He wouldn't leave me alone, he inserted himself into our conversations, he asked for a hug on the very first day. My memory doesn't serve me too well, but I'm pretty sure within 3 or so days of knowing him, he asked me out. Obviously it was a no. That didn't stop him. He kept telling people about how I was perfect, about how he was so attracted to me. I kept up the friendship, I kept letting him guilt trip me with the "where's my hug?" I kept brushing over every inappropriate comment about me or my body. At the time I was in a relationship of sorts with someone abusive. He used that to his advantage. Why do you want to be with someone who treats you like shit? You have no self-worth, you should be with someone who treats you better. He kept asking me out. I kept saying no. He instead turned to "It's so funny you're wanting to be with someone like that. I won't ever let you forget it. Hey, do you remember the time you were with Redacted?" If he couldn't have me, at the very least he could try and guilt trip me into hating myself so bad I'd date him. His inappropriateness only continued. I distinctly remember him walking me home, and as I said goodbye, he put his arms around me and tried to force me into a kiss. I immediately tried stepping back, but he held me in place. I pulled my head right back to avoid him and clearly indicate the answer was no, but he didn't listen. I instead decided to duck underneath his arms and sprint away. I said goodbye and hurried inside my house. Did I stop seeing him after that? Unfortunately no. I had no semblance of what boundaries were. I was ecstatic when he finally got a girlfriend. Imagine my horror and dismay when he revealed they were in some way related to each other, by blood or by marriage, I don't know, and their families had forced them to split up. He told me, "Even though I'm gutted it didn't work out, no, I will always be in love with you. I'd prefer to be with you." Great. He asked me out again. I said no. I then received unverified reports from my less trustworthy friends that when they were at his house, on his computer, they found a folder of photos of me. All of them seemed to be photos that were taken secretly. That scared me. I can't say who I trust more in that situation. It wouldn't surprise me if he did that. I had a moment with one of his friends. We had a spur of the moment kiss, both of us were single at the time. An hour later this friend had told John. John called me up to call me a fucking bitch and then hung up. This awful behavior continued for a while, but this is where the story takes a twist. I had been single throughout all of this. I never found someone I could trust enough to be in a relationship with, but one day John invited me to a house party hosted by one of his friends. His friend was really nice. I thought he was cute. We started up a friendship, and I hung out at his house frequently. Eventually the friend asked me out on a date. I accepted. John said nothing throughout all of this. A few months into our relationship, my boyfriend admitted to me that all those months ago, John had asked if he could bring me to his party. John asked my boyfriend if he could wingman for him. John invited me in a bid to get all his friends to encourage me into a relationship with him. Obviously this didn't work. After some time getting to know me, my boyfriend then asked John if he wouldn't mind him asking me out. John's response was, "Go for it. She won't say yes. She's frigid. "Oh John, you silly boy." John, I realized, was steaming mad. I was growing more and more uncomfortable and suspicious with John, and in a moment I'm not especially proud of, I ended up checking his phone when he was out of the room. I found several messages of him angrily messaging people that I'd gone off with another boy. I think that sealed the coffin for our friendship. I had never confronted him, but I distanced myself more and more. I moved in with my boyfriend who lived in another town, which meant John couldn't drop by unannounced. You would think this was the end of the story. Unfortunately not. John kept contacting me. He'd leave inappropriate comments on my cosplay pictures, mentioning how my thighs looked fatter, how certain pictures didn't do me justice. I ignored him. He kept messaging me. I have lost the screenshots of him messaging me. Hey. Hello. How are you? Hey. Hi. I didn't respond to him at all. During the pandemic I had taken up jogging. I was posting my runs on Strava. I cannot say whether this was truly him, but on my usual jogging route, I spotted someone who looked very similar to him sitting along my route. I immediately diverted and messaged my boyfriend in a panic. I wish I had confronted him. I wasn't as confident as I'm now. My suspicions were probably not unfounded. A few months later, after repeatedly messaging me over and over, he took another step into inappropriateness. He managed to find my mother's contact number and had called her to ask me to get in touch with him. This was the point where I developed a backbone. I sent him a long message explaining how deeply inappropriate this was, and that truthfully I was avoiding him because he had a history of making me uncomfortable. He didn't make an attempt to explain himself. He made a passive-aggressive comment and immediately unfriended me. He then messaged my mother to say he said she never wants to see me again. That's nice. I hadn't said that. Since then, my life has been quiet. My boyfriend is now my husband, and he's helped teach me about boundaries and consent. Goodbye John. I hope you find whatever you need in life to grow and move on. Glad you found your partner. Hopefully John gets chance to change before it's too late. He'll just start crying in his incel echo chamber and feel validated. John needed a major ass kicking. I'm glad you found someone who has taught you boundaries and consent. A real solid guy. I'd rather be a solid guy than a nice guy. That's all folks. Thank you for watching. If you like videos like this one, why not like and subscribe for more? Have a nice evening.